Today's job is pretty straightforward. We're going to change the wheel bearing on this Toyota Yaris or Vitz. It's 2009 model, 1.4 diesel. It's reasonably straightforward on account, I'll show you, of the bearing being a sealed unit. Now, people will say this is, here it is, people say it's very wasteful because you don't push bearings out, but at the same time it makes it fairly straightforward. It's a question of undoing 4 bolts, bringing the old unit out, pushing the new bearing in and reconnecting the ABS unit at the back, and you get a complete new bearing. And you notice that around about 100,000 kilometers, 60,000 miles, you can start getting noise from the rear of the car, especially going around corners, and that's the bearings wearing out. So first thing we need to do is make sure the car is secure, because we're going to be doing this without the rear brakes on. So in gear, and if you look towards the front there, the car's chocked. At the back it's chocked, and it's on an axle stand as well as the jack. So hopefully that should be secure, and I'm not going to be working underneath it. You see the hub's free, and to remove the hub it's just pushed in place. There are 2 holes here where you can screw in a 10mm nut and push the hub off that, or if you're lucky you can just pull the hub off with a bit of little bit of force. If you look around the back here, if I can get my tripod in, there's the ABS. That just comes off. If you have a screwdriver you can just unclip that, and there's a hole here. I'd advise before getting started on anything is getting some free oil, anti-grip stuff, and spraying it in here before you get the hub off and contaminate the brakes, and that will hopefully make removing the nuts a bit easier, because they're normally very stiff. So as you can see, I'm relatively lucky with these hubs. They just come straight off. It looks in fairly good condition, and look at the brake shoes, they look okay. And now we've got to undo all is remove the 4 nuts here. So as I said, there are 4 bolts which you can access here. They're 14mm, and the best advice I can give you is to get the best socket you can to shift these, because they're extremely hard. You don't want them rounding off. If they round off, you're left with drilling them out, retapping, or getting special sockets to remove rounded heads. So this is a 14mm hex, very good condition. Don't use any old cheap jack tools that are a bit knackered. And also get a breaker bar so you can get the leverage. They're notionally done up to 65 Newton meters, but you'll probably find them a lot harder. So that's 3 of the nuts done. You see, you just access them through here. You see they're pretty rusty. They take a lot of dirt here, and makes them a little bit difficult to undo. So I'll just see if I can get the last one out. If I can. Yeah, that's shifting. That's good. That's excellent. That's all 4 undone. I'll show you the other stages in a second. So the next job is to remove this ABS unit. So be careful not to break the clip. It should just come off fairly easily. There we go, just with a screwdriver. Now, it should be fairly easy. This is just pushed in to the hub, and we're going to remove this using a couple of big bolts to push on the back of the hub. I'll show you that. Yeah, so I've got these big bolts. They're about 60 or 70 millimeters long, and some big washers, bigger than the holes there. And so the plan is those can push on the back plate, which is quite solid. I'll just use a spanner on the back here and back this out. You'll see how that works. Well, I've got bolt, there's a nut here and there's a washer, and you need to hold the nut, at least initially, and then these 17mm bolts, you just need to screw the bolt in. You do a turn each side and it will back the hub out. Maybe I can. So you'll turn there and then come around to this side. I should really have gloves on, so if you slip, and just keep going until you get the hub out. The thing popped out after I applied enough load with those bolts. Actually warm. Those are probably ready to be thrown away now, and see, it's pretty gungy where it goes in. You need to push it back in the same way, same orientation, so you can get the ABS cable on. And if we look in there, you can see the free oil. It would have been better if I could have left it overnight properly. And we'll put some copper grease on there. You can see where I pushed on the backing plate. It's not really done any damage because it's pushing onto something very solid behind. So again, here's the new unit. We'll just push back in. What I'm going to do is put some copper grease around here, and I've got 4 new bolts. Always use new bolts, otherwise you'll find these eventually won't come out, although it should be good for another 100,000 kilometers. And I'll push that in and tighten it up. You need to tighten, once you have things seated in place, you need to move around with the bolts so the bearing unit doesn't get wedged. Hub and so this little backing plate is separate from the back of the axle, and getting them all lined up, it's 3 holes you have to get lined up, and it's a bit tricky. Eventually, there's not really enough light, so I'm doing this in the evening. Eventually it all went in, and this is the last nut, and these need to be torqued up. This one's a bit rusty, to be honest with you. Check that's on, not cross-threaded. They need to be torqued up to 65 Newton meters. I've got a torque wrench for that, of course. Tightening a bit at a time. And torque wrench set at 65. I just worked my way around these nuts to get the thing to go back in straight, and then I just taught them about last nut to do. And when it makes a click like that, it's torqued up, so that's ready. Make sure the shoes are pretty much centered. I'll put my gloves back on, and we can just push the everything looks okay, brakes are in good condition, so the hub just slides back on, and then can do the wheels up. So there we go. Garage job, well, the cost of this is about an hour in time, plus the bearing was €100, $100 probably. You can, it's an FAG one for reasonable quality. I think it's a garage, and you're looking at €300, €500. Depending on what your garage rates are, but that's what they're like here in Europe. And don't forget to reconnect the ABS, or your ABS won't work properly. That just plugs in around the back.